And hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing live show number 173. That's right, 173. But not to be confused with anything else, we are hopefully going to be joined by Mr. Stuart Butler this afternoon or this morning from Fuel Travel, depending on what your time zone is, who is celebrating their 100th podcast. And he has promised me they're going to do this live, just like we do our show every week. And he's going to bring in the Brain Trust, which is the people that he actually, takes credit for their work kind of thing. And they're the ones that really do the heavy lifting and they're the ones that actually know what's going on. But because Stuart is eye candy, he's the one that gets all the FaceTime. Sir.
Well, good morning.
I was just talking about how we were going to be joined, hopefully, by the Brain Trust of Fuel Travel, seen behind the curtain, since Mr. Stewart is really just the eye candy of the operation and not the brains. Yeah, I mean, when you got looks like that, that's the only resource you got to work with. I mean, he needs people around him to kind of, make him feel good about knowing stuff. So
a face only a mother armadillo could love.
Well put. For those who are normally used to Mr. Robert Cole's well-curated list earlier on, he tells me that it's tryptophan, but I'm thinking it's a drunken stupor. I think what happened was
drunken stupors. My conjecture regarding Stuart and his team not being on is that they started their pre-gaming for their 100th podcast even earlier than anticipated. So
normally they're only a few hours ahead of their podcast for winding up with the beers, but maybe they did a little 24-hour party celebration. You're right. That might be one of the reasons for it. But I don't know about you, but as I was choking on my Fruit Loops this morning, I had a wonderful announcement across the entire newscasting world how Marriott violated us by yet again dumping their pants and letting us go over and have their data stored away, which is not exactly the whole story, but it was disappointing.
I don't know. Is it really that big a deal? I mean, it's just 500 million records. I don't know. It's only been going on for 4 years.
Right. And of course, it's Starwood, and they can go over and shrug their shoulders. Hey, we just bought the place. No, you didn't.
Talk about buyer's remorse.
Yeah. Well, 4% of their gross receipted sales globally because of the GDPR that might kick in. Oh yeah. That's going to be if that gets pushed.
So very quickly for people who are not aware, who haven't
or didn't watch the news this morning,
who haven't seen CNN. I mean, this is like top news. They have kind of like the Michael Cohen, Donald Trump thing's the lead, obviously, but this is like number 2 in red at the top of the website sort of thing. So lots of hits on Marriott and brand exposure. There's no such thing as bad press, right, Lauren?
Yes.
Let's try to spin that one. But what happened was the Starwood Central Reservation System was hacked. So they kind of said it was frequent traveler number. It was actually the reservation system, which is really almost worse than the CRM system. So it happened 4 years ago. It's been going on just on the Starwood brands. They knew about it in early September, didn't tell anybody, and apparently not even the New York Attorney General, who is supposed to be notified of these things, hasn't been notified yet, which is very, very, very bad. And the list of things that were exposed are pretty ugly because you've got names, addresses, email addresses, passport numbers,
birth dates, physical addresses, all the data that you give a hotel to secure your
and in many cases possibly credit card numbers, because apparently the hackers, and they call it an unauthorized intruder or whoever was mucking around, and apparently they have records that this person pulled down 500 million records or something. Now there may be duplicates in there, so maybe it's only 350 million people, or who knows. Maybe it's not that.
The big thing that got me bothered about it wasn't so much yanking data out. It's one thing to go over and have somebody yank stuff off the shelves and run out the door. Mm-hmm. They went over and forged keys. They got the ability to decrypt the data. They went through the process
that's
pulling
the
decrypted
part.
Data, which they were able to do. They accessed the ability to decrypt it. Not that they yanked up readable data. They went past through the keys,
started rummaging around in the key locker.
They went into the safe and just started going through the safety deposit box to see which was better than the other. That's the scary part, is that this isn't your typical dine and dash. This is the methodical time-consumptive way of going through and finding a way to just access it at will, and look at it at will. And that's the real. I mean, other than the types of data and so forth that was stolen, that's the damning part of it, because that is pure IT failure.
Right.
That is
and if they did that, that's probably email addresses, who knows, on passwords and things like that are decrypted. If they've got the keys and they're in there for 4 years undetected, boy, that can. And again, don't really know how sophisticated these folks were, but they apparently had access and they had time, which are probably the two greatest. The two greatest enemies. So
well, you consider too is that it's not always. I mean, as with anything, the data being stolen and so forth, some of it is not changeable. I mean, you can't change your birth date, you can't change your Social Security. Not that was necessarily one of the aspects, but you can't change your passport number. But what really is the time and access thing that scares me the most is that you get to deconstruct the systems that are built, the way things are handled, how things are done, so that you can learn how to replicate this opportunity. Because face it, we live in a very incestuous ecosystem of technology. Nobody has a completely disparaging different platform. They usually have similarities to their infrastructures or similarities to their programming. So as you learn from one, you can imply those lessons learned. I wish Holly was here, actually. She's the coding whiz with us. She could tell us how bad that would be. But, the fact
Wait a second. Whoa. Holly's a coding whiz. This only recently came out.
Ooh.
I think we may have a suspect here.
Dot string. And then, but then she went. Strangely, she went through this coding training, this deep, hardcore boot camp coding training, and then she comes out of it and starts a very successful sales training program, as if the 6 months of coding were just not applied.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. So
things that make you go,
yeah. Well, and the challenges for Marriott, I mean, and again, this kind of data, all of a sudden, yes, there's one sort of, there's the appeal, certainly the hacker of, I have their credit card number, I can go use it and it will wind up on their statement. The scarier one is, I can create a new account for this person and buy a bunch of stuff, and by the time they figure it out, I'm gone. And actually that happened to me in 2000. And weirdly enough, it was not internet related. That I moved to Houston, and these rather clever, you can't really call them hackers, I guess they're organized crime figures, whoever these guys are. Thieves, scum of the earth. Thieves. Basically, they went out, and because we were in the Woodlands, Texas, which was growing from like a 40,000, person neighborhood to now it's like 120,000, right? It was in this huge growth spiral. So they had all these people moving into these new housing developments. They marched down to the city tax office or the building department or whatever and got all the new property tax records, like, hey, Lauren just moved to town, sort of thing. So they had the address, they had the name, and that was about it. Well, what did they do? They made up a Texas driver's license number. They found people, humans, to go walk in and to go, because our first one was, we got a statement back from this kind of regional department store, and I'm like going to my wife going, hey, what did you buy for $12,000 or not 12, sorry, $1,200 at this department? She's like, I've never been in there. I'm like, come on. She's like, no, I'm serious. It's like, well, what is this sort of thing? And it's a little startling to get a $1,200 bill. That was like on a Monday. On the Thursday, we got $6,000 bill from Home Depot for signing up. All these were store credit cards. On Friday, we got a $6,000 invoice from Lowe's. And we're like, what the heck is going on? And the same bank was, I mean, we're talking these guys, 13,000, but what they were doing was walking into the stores going, hi, I'm new to the area. I can save 20% if I get a store credit card. That's great. Here's my driver's license number, which I'm sure had their picture, my name, my address, phony, Texas driver's license number, right? But they knew that these guys didn't check it, right? So they go, we found a vulnerability. We called in the bank who was doing both Lowe's and Oh, Lowe's and Home Depot. Same bank was exposed to this. They're like, yeah, they bought lumber, right? And you kind of go, oh, and he said, yeah, this has been happening. They'll hit a different city. It's unpredictable, but there's a group of people and they'll get away with several $1 million and they're gone, right? And just poof, no traces, which is just great. So you think of this with, oh my God, they've got passport numbers and birth dates and addresses. You don't have to march in anywhere. You just go, and maybe passwords decrypted too, right? And how many people use different passwords on every website, right? Vast majority of people either use the really stupid ones, just use the, a really bad password, right? But then now that things have gotten more complicated with, oh, you need uppercase and lowercase letters and some numbers and a character. Well, they do. They just use the same one, right? Because they can't remember them to all of them. And even the ones like if you go into Chrome, it'll go, do you want me to recommend a password? Which is really convenient. And it stores it. Well, what happens if they can get access to your computer, right? If you use the same password on your Marriott account, then what? Office 365 or Outlook.com or, your Google account or something like that. All of a sudden they get in there. And I mean, if you use things like Google Voice, all of a sudden you can set up things where you see your text messages, it comes up on your computer, sort of thing. If you're logged in, you're in the ecosystem, you've been validated, you're ready to go, right? And that's very, very scary because you can do whatever, two-factor authentication, send me a text message. Oh, there it is in my Google Voice box. Yeah, it's not really physically on my phone. So yeah, really, really scary stuff.
Yep.
Sorry it happened to Marriott. Yep. Sorry it happened to Marriott, but it was inevitable that 500 million people, something that big, probably everybody stayed at, well, and it's not just the Starwood one, it's Marriott now is getting, hit with the thing. And to tell them, oh, that's okay, it's just these brands is probably not that, not that consoling to people. And their stock price got hit. I haven't checked recently. It was off 5%, like right off the bat.
So yeah, because they know it's going to cost them something. This isn't a freebie ride.
Well, and they were already down because they had said next. Yeah, they were already down because they said next year was going to be soft, right? They looked at a little bit, greater softness, so they were already down, and now it's not.
Now, the question to this is, and this is something I hadn't even thought about until you were talking about this, is when you talk about the GDPR penalty, and this may be the first effective, implementation of penalization that goes on. That the
child
goes, I'm sorry, say what? And then they can actually put some teeth to this rather than the ambiguity of how is this going to get pursued? Is it just going to be a localization of legalities or whatever? So now all of a sudden there's a big carrot out there. Does it mean percentage of gross revenues of all Marriott Starwood or at the time of the infraction in the sense that it was still Starwood? So is it 4% of Starwood's revenues for the year that it was first discovered that there was a problem? Or is it 4% of Marriott Grandiose?
Or do you think they'll be grandfathered going, this happened before GDPR, so it doesn't really count? Not really, right? Because, I mean, it started 4 years ago, so it's built up, but all the stuff, and knowing since September, not telling, that's not going to go well.
Oh, that's not going to go well.
That I think is going to be the linchpin. So,
well, they're probably going to go and say, oh, well, we had to confirm and validate this is a big thing. Yeah, that's pretty fast to find out in the sense that once you see that there was a leak out the door, it's not a matter of whether or not we have to identify how bad. It's a leak, which is the threshold of why you have to announce. It's not how bad was the leak. It was there was a leak. And then you find out from that point forward. So the delay in notification is not, as you said, going to go very well with them in that and when they're looking to defend themselves. When it comes to cost, and how would that be funny? I mean, you figure if say it does go the worst of the worst, say you wakes up and says we can pull ourselves a several $billion paycheck chasing these guys down, Marriott wise, and how is a company like that going through what they're doing, going to swipe 4 or 5% of their gross revenues, off the bottom, off the top line. I mean, that's
well, and it gets complicated. Is that Marriott Corporation's revenues in terms of what goes to Marriott, right? In terms of their fees. So let's say they're getting 12% fee level from the hotels. Is it that, or revenue that's going through that, that's passing through their hotels that are under their franchise agreements, which aren't really, I don't know. There's going to be some interesting, only the stuff that goes through their reservation systems. There's a lot of different dimensions where, depending on how aggressive the regulators want to be, they can get to a very large number. Because again, if this was in Starwood's central reservation system and tied into all those hotels, depending on what is pulled back from those properties in those systems, I mean, I don't know. That's a lot of stuff.
Well, also what happens from the franchisor's point of view, is there legals that they can pursue after branding for breach of contract, fiduciary responsibility, all of that kind of stuff that says, we're put in jeopardy because of your mismanagement of data storage. And, we feel this is a violation of our franchise agreement, especially for the tenuous franchise relationships that exist right now because of the merging and the fall off from the marketing, competition and so forth, for having now too much inventory in some markets, and some of the franchise ownerships going, my God, I'm supposed to be friends with 3 other properties I used to compete with for the same customer. Maybe I want to get out from underneath the umbrella and go my own way and get a chance to get them back. So this is a big can of wormy happiness.
Oh yeah. This is not a good situation for them.
And I don't think it's going to get dragged out very long. I don't think these things. I mean, Marriott will probably try to keep it in litigation and try to keep it within, just gets drawn out, loses its teeth. Eventually gets whittled down to some sort of final resolution or something to it. But I think right now, for what it is, the recentness of GDPR's rollout, the fact that California is looking to tighten themselves up with some sort of guidelines, this is only going to add fuel to that conversation. We as the United States may have our own domestic GDPR control, which, again, if you're doing it right, shouldn't be an issue. But it's for those who don't do it right that this turns to be a problem. But anyway, which brings us to, actually, I have no idea if Mr. Stewart is going to join us pre-post or what, but I was fascinated on your list, the CRM reality check article.
Oh, yeah. Let's just we have a theme for the show. Let's call it Beat on the Brands.
Today's episode is Beat on the Brands, where we'll take every brand and pummel them into nothing.
And actually, one thing. It's not like Starwood was some just really heinously bad organization with a bunch of idiots running it who just had no clue on IT and had set this up on a little WordPress account on their own thing, and who knew. These are large organizations with large IT infrastructures, and these are big, huge companies, which does actually make them a target, certainly. But also, this is a cautionary tale for everyone. But anyway, we can talk about CRM and Malia.
Okay. So actually, I think actually for this one we should do a screen share, because the visualization I thought was one of the more impactful. It is
great. It really is great, because I used to get these from Hyatt all the time, because I would go stay in Bellevue, Washington, where I grew up, when my mom was in an assisted living place because she had dementia, and that was fine. So I was up there, multiple times a year, at least quarterly, sort of thing, to go visit with her. But then when she passed away, I kept getting these things, right? Because no idea of the context of why you're there. And pitching all this sort of stuff, and you're just like, please, that's not really on point. But Malia avoided that sort of thing, if any sort of personalization.
Let's tee this up a little bit, because first off, for those who get their acronyms messed up, is CRM. What does CRM stand for, Mr. Robert? Look, he's got a shirt on.
Hey, guys.
He's looking well dressed.
Wow.
My outfit is not quite fully on yet.
Been pre-gaming?
We're still dealing with boxers.
Yeah, we always pre-game.
You missed it. No, we were just having fun bashing. Well, not bashing. Well, we were bashing Marriott, Starwood, and their happy news today.
Yeah.
And so before we get too deep into the CRM, Mr. Robert, let's see if Mr. Butler would like to add to the joy that Marriott must be waking up to today. Or actually, they're aware of it since September. Whoopsie.
Yeah. That's, I think, the big problem, that they didn't notify people quickly. Right? That's going to probably be ultimately what gets them in more trouble than the breach itself. So, yeah, they're
And
in
you are
fines,
a resident
from the EU. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, being our resident EU representative, this might be the wake-up call for EU to figure out to put some teeth in their litigation capabilities.
Yeah, and I'm sure you mentioned this, but I mean, theoretically, they could fine them up to 4% of their worldwide annual revenue.
Well, we were discussing that. What is Marriott's worldwide annual revenue? Is that Marriott's revenue in terms of their P&L, right? Their fee revenue that they take in. Now they also have owned. That's from franchise properties, right? It's the fees. Right. Owned properties, they've got all the revenue from those, which is a larger number, right? Not just a franchise fee. Or because this is the reservation, is it just things that they took on reservations that got processed through, or the entire revenue of all their franchisees? There's some interesting combinations of numbers.
Yeah. This will be the precedent, right? This will be what really defines how GDPR is going to work moving forward, because there's no question there's going to be consequences to this one. This is probably the one, because we've
they
had
wanted
a lot
a poster
of US,
child and they found one.
Right? Because they've had a lot of US companies that have had breaches, but they didn't really operate in the EU, so that their scope was a little limited. I mean, you look, Dunkin' Donuts had it this week as well. So I think, you know, this is going to be one to really watch very closely. And for all those people that say, I'm just burying my head in the sand, I'm not worried about GDPR right now, this could be the wake-up call that we needed to get everyone on board.
Oh, yeah.
Well, again, what we earlier in the conversation, I don't mean to recap for those people who have been already listening to us prior to this, it wasn't so much the data stealing itself as to it was bad enough in itself, the personalization of the data and what have you. It was the keys used to get in. They went through the encryption process. They got long-term access to be able to see with the keys that open things up, everything. So to what point I made earlier is, it wasn't so much of the data being pulled as it was understanding the infrastructure, understanding the capabilities, knowing that there's not any software that doesn't have some similarities to another. They were able to take their time and go through and learn how things are worked with and how they use and what have you. And to Robert's point, why steal one credit card that you can find out that was stolen? Why not just go make a new credit card at this point? Because now you have accesses to email accounts potentially, or at least you can try to see. You have passport information. You have really centric, personalized information. This opens up the opportunity of really leveraging the data usage, but also the fact that you used it, with the keys to get in. It wasn't just a dine and dash thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and with the credit card numbers, are these all? How many Starwood preferred guest American Express credit card numbers are in there? I mean, who knows what they were, futzing around with, right? I mean, there's a lot of information in there.
Yeah, as a consumer, if you've ever stayed at one of their properties and if you don't have identity theft protection, I would probably go do that now. You should have probably done that already, but
no. After the show ends, it's plenty of time. Don't worry. Probably wasn't you. Don't panic. But after the show ends, before the Fuel Travel podcast, actually probably after that one too, right? Later this afternoon, there's plenty of time, but then panic.
Then panic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it was kind of funny on the news things today. They're always scrambling to get their experts to talk about things. And so I was watching the Today Show, and they brought in this security expert. And even the host had to go, really? The security expert's like, well, yes, and you should, whenever possible, get double authentication put on your account. And they're like, even the host goes, excuse me, I have no hotel app program that allows me to do double authentication. How can I use double authentication in my relationship with a hotel brand? And the security officer's like, well, in most cases. Okay, fine. So scramble for that one. I mean,
there's a theoretical best practice, and then there's the reality. And there's always going to be a trade-off between convenience and practicality versus security. And people tend to lean towards convenience and laziness.
They do. Absolutely.
And myself included.
And that's what we were saying right before you came on. The big problem is if they decrypted the passwords too, they can then go in and go, well, Stuart always uses Star Wars .1234.
How did you know? You just told these billions of listeners.
Yeah, or Luke's my dad. Yeah. So whatever that may be across all these websites, and all of a sudden it's like, well, gee, let's try. We've got the email address. We've got a password maybe decrypted. Let's try that on Bank of America. Nope. Mm-hmm. Chase. Yeah. Nope. Hey, Citibank. Look at this. Yeah. We've got a winner. Yeah. So ugly
One
stuff.
Simple tip to prevent that is have an algorithm for your passwords so everything you use is different for every different account, but there's the same algorithm, so you never forget what it is. So what I do is I take 2 random letters from the name of the institution and insert them into my traditional string, and then have some upper lowercase and stuff like that. But that way I never have the same password for 2 things. But
I would have thought you would have looked at the first letter of the name of the site and then cross-reference that to a Star Wars character.
There you go.
That name. Right. So you go, it's Oberoi Hotels. That's going to be Obi-Wan.
Yeah. That's right. Aloft was Akbar. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Now, my hardest transition was I've been using a password program, 1Password, and I gen passwords up for everything that I'm using. My crux is for a while, up until about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago. Actually, one of our conversations where we had the breach, Wyndham, I think we were talking about at the time or something. Anyway, my hard part was for platforms I like going into regularly directly myself, I tend to be very similar in my password creations. I made variations in them, but there was a pattern to the variations that I was like, all right, I really got to just do the full leap. I just got to be like, get off of the ability to just log in direct without using the password key software, and just realize that I need to use the password key software, and then keep changing that password up so that even if somebody did unlock something of mine, they still wouldn't know how to get to that particular part of it. And that was the hardest transition, is just to jump off the cliff and the leap of faith, saying, if I went to a login account, I would not know my own password because I didn't build it. It's literally been genned in a key system.
Right.
And that's a tough one.
Which one do you use?
1Password. Yeah, it's nice also because it does something really interesting, and this is from my family that lives in Europe that comes to the U.S. After twice coming through and them the TSA taking their phones and wanting them to unlock them, really pissed them off. Not that they didn't find anything, but really pissed them off. 1Password allows you to do what's called travel, and what it does is it clears out everything local on the phone. So if you unlock it, you hand it over, nothing is unlocked, and there's no passwords in it. There's no data to extract, nothing. And then when you get over to the other side, you can log in and have it backed up on your phone.
Mm-hmm. And this is why Lauren and Holly have not been caught for the Marriott hack yet.
We did. Can I connect the dot? Now, Stuart, did you not assist Holly in her skill set learning of boot camp coding? No,
and I did think it was weird when she was trying to ask how to hack a mainframe, but I just assumed
it was
we're just beginning to slice some pieces together. And now she's like Clark Kenting it. She's just doing sales training. All that boot camp training seems to be what happened? I don't know,
But when she's buying, she seems to go around to these cities and she buys a townhouse there to stay overnight. And I don't know about driving the Lamborghinis and Ferraris and things like that.
Upgraded cars since the early days.
Is that suspicious? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I think didn't she go and talk to Marriott recently, or maybe even 2014 she talked to them. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Allegedly. I don't want to get
Holly, if that doesn't get you on the show, I have no idea what's going to get you to talk to us on the show.
That's right. Exactly.
Anyway, so we were migrating over to another wonderfully shared article by Rob.
Lauren was going to do a screen share, which with our technology, our webinar jam technology will probably sever the session.
Yeah,
but that's
here we go.
Okay.
Well, we did that. We wanted to do the screen share because this visualization is probably the most powerful aspect of this. Let me know if you can see it.
So Vikram Singh went and started up. Can you zoom in a little bit on your?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's excellent. So Vikram basically, had a little thing for, hey, look at what's going on. Oh yeah, you're way at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he basically went through. And the poor folks at Malia, he had signed up for something or other way back in the day and was going to basically unsubscribed because they were pinging him a couple times a week or whatever with these various emails. But then he decided, you know what? I'm not going to unsubscribe. I'm just going to archive these and hang on to them and see what these do.
Oh wow, he created a blog with all the content. That's
oh
awesome.
yeah, so he's got some history here. So yeah.
So basically, what was, and this has been a big piss me off from when I deal with clients, is like, look, what are you guys doing? Once they set up a stupid template, they leave it and beat it to death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they just made a couple of minor changes and they dump it. And the thing I want to point out is like, it's supposed to be relationship management, not email, sends. That's all it is.
Blast
but I mean, the thing visually is
45% off. Whoa, go slower. So look at the lack of target. I can't remember where he stayed first. Maybe it was in Sevilla or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he's got these things for, I don't know if that's the Maldives. I don't know. What's that? That's Milan. All of them 40% off, 35% off. Just price.
No personalization whatsoever.
Nothing.
Random.
Yeah. Family stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, whoever handles their marketing's probably had a tough conversation this week then, huh?
Yeah. Top 5 hotels.
And again, yeah.
But it's great. But his commentary is great because he's like, he'll get one at 40% off, but then one at like 22, and he's like, no way, I'm not doing that. He's go 50. Yeah, here we go. Look at this. So,
is there anything in any of these other than deals? Is there any valuable content?
Nope.
This is
announcements of some new hotels. Announced a new hotel, but same format and discount offer.
Yeah.
Then there's children, whether he has children he's traveling with or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, what's this next
one?
Is that just a couple?
Yeah. It's back and forth between families, couples, underwater lady, and kidder.
And weirdly,
he talks about the same images.
Yeah.
Does he disclose anywhere in this what CRM they're using?
I don't think so.
No.
I think he's just done. But look they got that same little kind of bubble, the bubble background type. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but he even says, it's like, look, it's all right, because it's like the third time in 4 months and he's seeing the same image.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, there's no better place enough not to be above the fold in the email design. Life is full of surprises. There's no better place. Yeah. What place?
Yeah.
Discover more. Discover more about what?
Yeah.
Because they're jamming it into a base template and then sharing it out.
Hey, the template changed. Oh, maybe not. It's just a white. They forgot the background image.
No. So what they did is
a broken link.
You see a lot, right? Which is they have probably a very powerful tool that they're using, maybe 20% of the functionality. They hired someone very entry level to manage their email because it was cheaper than going with an agency, and that person doesn't have the skill set to think about strategy of all things.
Well, or maybe they got an agency who's just really bad.
I hope this isn't an agency, but if it is, they're probably taking cues from the client versus leading the client. But this is what happens when you just
50% off the deal. They didn't even change the header on this one, and then they put 45% off. And
the sad thing is, gents, that I would say more than 50% of the industry is guilty of the same behavior.
Oh, absolutely. They've got their little editorial calendars because they're doing content marketing, right? So they are creating content and saying, "Hey, it's a Thursday in March. That means we're pushing the whatever, right?" And it's just everybody gets one size fits all, and they think we're rotating this stuff through, and they're probably looking at the analytics
boxes on their on their to-do list.
Yeah, here we go. Back to 45%. Now we're talking.
Yeah, I wonder what's changing that. Is it occupancy?
Who knows? Seasonality.
Seasonality. Yeah. What?
City or beach looks like the beach one. It is. His commentary is what makes this a funny conversation. It's a set commentation. You know what it is? The reality of this is that these images here in the center is what gets submitted up to whoever's supposed to check box that they've approved that it to be used to be sent. And they like the fact that there's a gauze overlay with text on it making an offer. and there's an image in the background. Great, send it out, blah, blah, blah.
I don't understand why they keep using this bubble blue thing in the back, which I guess it's supposed to indicate a beach or something like that, and it's generic enough where it goes with almost any. It doesn't conflict with the picture.
I think it's the default background or something. I don't know.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah. You can change that? Really? You can change that background? I didn't know that element could be changed. That would be so cool. Yeah.
From last week. Yeah, later returns. Also, check out my points balance. 0 points.
Yeah. Oh boy.
It is amazing. It is.
It just keeps going. Oh, there's another kid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he keeps. I mean, it really is. That's why we want to throw it up on the screen share. I mean, this just goes on, and I mean, he keeps going making the comments too. And he keeps going through. Just
over the course of a year. Yeah. There you go. Wow. Oh, Urban Lady's back. Yeah,
2 years.
The reuse of the imagery is just on these is just insane.
Yeah, but people don't remember what they got 2 weeks ago.
That's true. Yeah. Exactly.
They're probably their philosophy, right?
Because if they aren't very engaged in clicking, and most of them aren't even opening this, you can use it all the time. It doesn't matter. You can use it every week because they're not paying attention. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well. As it is for that, going back to not sharing anymore, turn screen sharing off, is CRM is supposed to be an engagement tool. You're supposed to learn from and refine your communications with the guests so that you're not just inundating them with the perpetual white noise messaging of offer and rate or room and rate or whatever it is like that. And, dealing with, and I'm not going to blame all my clients for this, but in general, email is supposed to be shuffled off to somebody that takes care of it. Then nobody wants to talk about the hard issues of using it correctly. And so they're like, do we get an email out? Well, we got to refine what the email is according to our marketing message. Hey, we got a newsletter we got to get out.
Just check the box.
That thing. Get it out there.
They're forgetting that second letter, the R in CRM, right? And it is all about relationship. And how are you building a relationship by just blindly sending out a random deal to a random property that has no relevance to the individual? So
now wait, Stuart, wasn't this your dating strategy though in high school?
Right.
Pretty much, yeah.
Random messaging,
random discounts.
But I mean, it's funny that you put this article in, Robert, because I'm right now in the middle of creating workflows and trying to actually take a lump database that has nothing more than email, first name, last name, which is great that I have it, but I need to start creating engagement with it, with conditionals as to what people engage with, so I can start isolating out the interests, what time of year they want to travel, what kind of travel they do, and that's all by filtering how they react to the different components I put in the email, and then I start splintering that data out, and then you start creating what's called workflows. For anybody who's never heard of it, it's like, did they open it or didn't they open it? Did they? Okay, then what did they click on? What did they click on gets into a separate. If they didn't open it, then is there a retrieval email that you want to send to all unopens X days afterwards that says one more chance or another chance? Just don't regurgitate the same email. Send a variation saying you may have missed this. Let us show it to you again. Did they open it or didn't they? And you create these logic strings, just like you do for bots, that make it so that you can understand the data that you have about these people, so that if they don't react, you make them into a zombie list and you give them one shot on another platform. And if they still don't react, kill the list. There's no gold badge that says I have X number in my data file. If anything, from CRM platforms, you pay money to either store it or to send it. Mm-hmm. So why hang on to it if you can't get anything out of it? Kill your zombie list if you can't. If after doing really good engagement, they still don't engage, they don't want to engage. Stop it.
Well, but you also have to know your property and where they are, right? Because maybe they are an intermittent guest, right? So, I mean, you do wind up with situations like you could have a ski resort in wherever, Colorado, and a beach resort in the Virgin Islands or someplace like that, where maybe these guys kind of go back and forth, or they rotate between different things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or it's a special occasion every 5-year anniversary or something.
Right, something like that. Yeah.
Scenarios for sure. I don't.
But again, you need to be aware of
the list completely. But I think you've got to treat people differently and
they're kind of archived. They're kind of archived off on a side where you still have them. Yeah.
When I say killing it, I mean taking it out of the context of the CRM engagement, where if you're paying for storage, I have X size database, and you have to pay according to the size. Why pay for the unused space? Take it out and put it in.
Whoa, how much are you paying for storage, I guess is the question.
Yeah, you're using the wrong CRM.
One platform will charge you that if you have 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 names. You pay according to the size of the database. Another one will say, we don't care what size database you have, but you're only allowed to send 30, 50, or 100,000 emails a month.
Right.
So if you're sending either scenario, if you're keeping a zombie list on there that isn't engaging and you've exercised proper workflow, I'm not just saying because they don't answer you, just dump them. I'm just saying don't keep it on your paid for platform at that point.
Right. Well, ideally, you're not paying for just having the email in your database, right? That I would question the CRM you're using if that's how they're charging you. But I think what I would do in that scenario is rather than keeping them in any kind of list where you're sending blasts to a group of people, I would keep them on an individualized trickle. And one email that is really good at rehabilitating is an anniversary email. And I don't mean their wedding anniversary. I mean the anniversary of their book date, right? So 30 days prior to when they booked a stay, you can send that each year because you don't know if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 year cycle, because if it's Hawaii or something like that, maybe I'm going on my 10th anniversary and my 15th anniversary. So I think to occasionally send people a one-time personalized email with, integrate with say Flip2 and bring in the photos of what they shared last time, they had a good positive experience.
Right.
That's really good. And then the other thing we do with our new platform is we have tracking pixels throughout the journey on the website as well. So if you've ever given us an email address throughout your life cycle on the website and we've cookied you and you haven't deleted cookies and we see you come back, then we can start a new drip. Even though you haven't been responding to emails, if we see you hit our website or search for rates, we can then put you back into a new drip campaign on an individual level.
Or you go to the dark web and you figure out if you can get their whole history of staying at Starwood Properties since 2014, and then you buy those guys, and then you can really, Lauren, you can augment your email with cross. They've got the email address, you can cross-reference, and there you go, Lauren.
I guess for me to clarify what I mean by zombie list is that you have your post-stay engagements, you have your post-stay engagements, you have your trickle reminder engagements, you have your previous engagements based on what they did with you at a property. You have every legitimacy to create that and they're not touching you. Right. And they're not touching anything you're creating, and also they've never indicated what they're interested in past any point whatsoever. And to give you examples, like platforms now on a consumer side level, for those who are trying to do entry level, I don't have somebody to do this for me stuff, places like MailChimp charge you by storage volume. If you have it sitting on with them, they're going to pay. You're going to make you pay for it. Other platforms that are more CRM centric, they charge according to the sends, like the Sendine guest folios of the world and stuff. They send out where they limit what you can send. So the idea of it is that rather than and this also means trying them on other platforms. Sometimes they don't respond via email, but they engage you with social. Creating custom lists of your email lists and using them to try to engage them differently. If at the very end you get absolutely zero from zero, that's what I mean by a total zombie list. That's a list of people, and it usually tends to be a very, very small list, but it's still eventually enough of a list.
Mm-hmm. What you don't want to do is because we're beating on Marriott so badly earlier. Hilton was on the top of my list for just loathing their thing. They kept pruning me. I mean, and I've had 5 different, and I've been, Hilton, I don't think I've ever been above gold with them, but, I've stayed with them in, kind of spurts, especially depending on clients, right? Where I'd be there kind of, quite a bit. There was one where it was there, 4 days a week for 6 months, right? And actually, I got like a very high level thing there for that thing, but you don't use them for 18 months and you're pruned off, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? You don't have lifetime stuff. And you go back to some of them, like Starwood was pretty good at that, which said, you've been on the platform since 1980 something, whenever they go back to, which is great. And I think kind of keeps people around too. And you have their history, go, you know what? They never really got out of silver status or whatever members, the most basic member status is, but they come back every couple of years for whatever sort of thing. What can we do to keep that going and get a little bit more, right? Mm-hmm. So it's probably not top priority, but out there, if you start looking at the long tail, especially during a downturn or something like that, you gotta shake the trees to see whatever you can find, and having those things out there, someplace where you can get access to them, try to re-engage. Who knows? So, and get them into a lovely drip campaign like Malia was using, with just random discounts in the same images, just over and over, and
See,
and again, we're hammering on Malia, but maybe they've figured out that really works, and they have the stats that go. Everybody else is doing it wrong, and this this violates everything, and this converts 50% better than following best practices.
Tough, right? It's really tough, because I have this debate with clients all the time that have had that approach, and it's like a drug, because they know every time they send out one of those emails, there's an amount of revenue that is going to be automatically generated. It's like pressing the easy button. And to shift strategy, sometimes you take a short-term hit on that drug, because you're going to see, if you send out an engaging, content-driven, helpful email that's building a relationship, that is going to probably underperform on a one-to-one comparison with a deal-driven email. Now, the problem is, what you don't see is what you're doing to destroy the integrity of the list every time you send that deal-driven, irrelevant email. So over time, your email list is getting eroded, but you can't really measure that A/B testing, right? So you can't say, well, if I engaged people and provided value and sent stuff that they're looking forward to receiving, so that when they do want to book, they book with me, over the long term, that's probably a better strategy. We would all agree. But it's really hard to show that on paper, because the short-term, quick-fix emails are always going to outperform on a one-to-one level.
Yeah. I had just a recent conversation, and I used a recent advertisement to make my point. The paralysis of choice, and I said, look at the Jim Beam commercial that's out there right now. Okay, you have a couple that's walking into a bar, and they look up at this wall, and the comment of the girl, that's the mystical girl that's sitting in a leather chair off to the side. Are you going to let a wall like that intimidate you, or are you going to look for the friendly bourbon? And then it highlights the Jim Beam sitting on a shelf of hundreds of probably other bottles of the same stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll pick that, because of course, obviously, I made two comments to it. One is the pervasiveness of peer pressure, or consumer sentiment, or friends pointing out things to you. Yeah. The other one, paralysis of choice. Probably all of them are unique in their own way, or they wouldn't exist. The issue is, what uniqueness is of interest to me at that particular time, I get lost in, because of the intimidation of the variations. And then, of course, the girl disappears like some mystic ghost that just pointed the one thing they needed, and off they went. But the idea of it is that if you stuff everything into an email and call it a newsletter and shove it to everybody that you know every month, how do I know which one I'm interested in? One, which one's better for me? Two, even if I'm interested in the three, to even open it for, So with that, it goes bring to a conversation I was just having with Ed yesterday on the process of selection. Like, what makes people go, and Stuart, this was related to you a little bit, on what makes people go into looking into the booking funnel? What makes them go into the e-com funnel? What are the questions that come up in that process? Am I looking for availability, rates on dates that I'm interested in? Is it inventory type, and like what type of rooms are coming up? Because obviously we do a crappy job on our websites, no matter how much we want to show off our room images, as to defining what each of those mean to consumer. So they have to go through this funnel process of discovery, only to dump out of it because they got the information they were looking for to make a decision that they did or didn't want. So we started talking about ways of how, and I get off on these weird tangents, imagine that, of wonder if you did this visualization, like an infographic almost, without it being too variant, where it turns into this complex maze of like, oh my gosh, I don't know which one's which. But type of travel, type of inventory. Are you a reason for discovery? Is it rate? Is it inventory type? Is it availability? Whatever it is. But if you created this kind of, you roll over one thing, I'm interested in coming. Are you interested about rate or room type or type of travel? I'm interested in rate. Okay, and then you have this, okay, we have these room types and there's rates available. And it almost like highlights a string of and then you can roll over to another side and go, wait, no, I'm interested in type of travel. And then it'll go through, well, we have these events going on while you're here, and these room types are available. So you can still follow the trails as you go along, but it's a single engagement place. Now, obviously you can make it into a rat's nest of horror of variations, but if you keep it straight, if you try to answer the questions as to what brings them through the e-com funnel for discovery and kept it that way, you might get a interface.
Well, and you can get some signals though by how people sort different things and filter. And it's easier for the major hotel groups, because they'll have people who they're searching for New York. Oh, did they search certain brands? They come in on a brand website, or they come in the general. They're looking for every. Oh, they sorted things into ascending price order. They checked the 4-star and above. Whatever they have on those sorts of things, those should be retained for that session. And then, hey, if they actually book, you can start tying those preferences together, and you start getting signals going, hey, they looked for 2 adults and 2 children. I think that's a family, sort of thing. But again, you can get caught on personas too, because then the person goes back and they're just going for a business trip on one thing, or to Vegas with college buddy. Totally different process. And that's where this underlying CRM platform, most of the hotel ones really fall short, right? Because it's all keyed off of just the email address and not the persona or the purpose of the itinerary.
So what we do with our new email platform is we use a lot of exactly what you're talking about. So we're tracking everything they're doing throughout the website journey and the emails interactions as well. And we're triggering everything and profiling people based on behavior, not on demographic information. And it's contextual and time sensitive. So we don't necessarily, we'll store the fact that they stayed with the kids, but we're going to look at each journey separately and look at what their most recent search was. So we know that if they came back to the site, even though they booked with a family 4 times, this most recent search didn't have kids. So they're not looking for kid. It's based on
then you can match them to a cohort who doesn't have kids and go, the probability is what converts best in people like this experience. You can try doing that.
That's exactly what we're doing. So that's where the machine learning comes in. So it starts recognizing these patterns of behavior on the website prior to an event. And it starts predicting that event is likely going to happen. So people that make these kind of searches and are looking at this content on the website tend to make this selection ultimately. So the eCRM picks all that information up, looks at the historical data, and then triggers automatically the right kind of message with the right kind of persuasion to get them a little faster through that funnel.
Well, and again, I think your persuasion because you went and bought that list of the Marriott passport, where you put up, we know your passport number, sort of thing. It's compelling. It's very compelling.
Yeah. Convenient. You don't have to provide any of your personal data because we already have it from Marriott.
That's right.
Convenient.
But and actually, you mentioned. But you mentioned that trade-off of convenience versus security, and it really is. I mean, and this is way back. I think I've told this story before. I apologize, but a budget rent-a-car, we did a deal with Priceline. Now, selling rent-a-cars through Priceline, name your own price, is an awful business, right? It's basically a margin destroying business. But they booked a lot of airfares, and so we did a thing like, do you want fries with that, right? Would you like a car? Well, we set it up pretty well with them. We didn't even have to pay because it was so new. Again, this was like 1999, 2000. We had 40% conversion, right? It was unbelievably great because we were giving great rates because we knew that we had these travelers with high intent, right? We knew exactly what flights they were coming in and leaving from. We had the whole thing, so we could tailor that through our API. It's coming back. The one thing we didn't do with Priceline, because we knew that they'd freak out, they had their credit card number, right? They had already booked it. We're like, we could swing this where you can be the merchant of record and sell this for us. That would be fine. And, just like, do you want to use the same credit card number? Yeah. Right. And, almost down to check the box. I got it. Thank you. Right? I need a car with, I want supersize me, whatever the case is. And again, a lot of places don't do that, but we were really thinking back then, how cool would that be? Right? And we knew people would go, and we didn't have the resources and the research or really the interest in digging into that, but that would have been a really interesting analysis to go, yeah, these folks love us. They trust us. They'll just book all their stuff throughout. And now what's Priceline doing? That's where they want to get to, right? That is Glenn Fogel's focus, is how they become the one point of travel on booking to go do everything in your trip, right? So.
Okay, question. And this is an opinion perspective of this with Marriott's recent thing. This will roll out. There will be feedback from consumer side, not to legalities and so forth. So here we are. We're talking about this balance. We've always been talking about it. We've ever since this of convenience versus privacy. Okay, so now we're faced with the fact that how is the consumer going to engage with us? We try to narrow down the number of clicks to get to a point of decision, Nazimad. So, is it 7, 10, 13, whatever it is, there's a process people have to go through, a funnel. That's why we even use the term, is because people go through this process, this linear engagement. Now, a lot of people have surrendered their data to minimize that sequence, saying the more I let you know about me, the faster and easier you can get me to where I want to be to see what it is I want to choose to buy. Now with this, maybe there's going to be a sentiment growth, and this is my opinion question, a sentiment growth of saying, you know what, screw this. I'm tired of this. I don't want to tell you anything about anything, all right? I will tell you, answer questions as long as you tell me you're not going to keep this data. I'm going to answer questions to get where I need to go, but you don't get to keep any of it. And if I come back again, I know I got to go through the whole process again, but I don't care. It means one less thing I got to worry about because you know that less about me. I will go through that. I'm here to travel. I'm here to be with you for these dates, and I'm here because I'm going with my family, and I want a good rate, and I want a room that has 2 double beds in it. But don't keep that stuff.
And I don't care about you as a brand. I don't care about any sort of experience or anything you can do for. You can't produce any incremental value by me giving you this information, right? The value return, the risk reward ratio is not in the customer's favor. But again, I'll use my daughters as examples. If Apple wants information from them, they got it, right? Amazon wants information from them, they got it. Facebook, maybe not. Instagram, maybe, which oddly is Facebook. Yeah, I don't know, right? But it depends on who do you trust, and that's the classic, branding sort of thing. I mean, that's the bottom line of modern marketing, right? It isn't just the 4 P's; it's a whole different set of P's that you've really got to look at. So.
I don't know. So what do you think? Do you think the pendulum can swing either way, or do you think it's still going to keep going the direction it's going?
It's going to, there are a lot of folks working actively on a universal solution to privatize the internet, to mean that private data is kept on the client side and never shared on, in having complex algorithms to communicate between the two, but the data never gets stored on, the side of the brand. But I think ultimately, and I'm guilty of this, people are lazy and convenience is always going to win out. Unless there's an egregious, overwhelming risk, I think people are always going to err on the side of, what's the worst that can happen? Because look at Facebook, right? Billions of people saw what happened, probably still feel like their data isn't 100% safe, feel like there's a potential that something similar could happen again. We see these data breaches every other week. It seems like another big firm like Marriott has come out with a big data breach. We've gone through how many retailers like Target, Dunkin' Donuts, there's a ton of them. And yet we still blindly go and swipe our credit cards and give our email address to receive, discounts. I just think we're too focused on what we want and what we get and not worried so much about what could happen. We're more about what's right in front of us. I mean, my whole house, I literally, this week I went and bought, because of Black Friday weekend, I just bought another Echo Show for my in-laws so we can communicate visually, and that's on my account. I got an Echo Fire TV Cube, which is amazing, and I can control my entire entertainment system with my voice now. I got the new version of the Echo Plus, so I've got the home hub to control lights and whatnot. I literally have 10 Echoes in my house now, and every room has an Echo. If that was ever breached, everything that's ever said in my entire house is now potentially at risk. But I don't care.
And on the front page of the Washington Post,
for sure. Believe it or not, I don't really do anything in my house that I'm too worried about, criminal at least investigation about. So what's the risk really for me having that stuff exposed? Is it inconvenient? Yeah, but I'd rather have the convenience of being able to now say, Alexa, show me this TV show, and it just come up on the screen without me having to do anything else. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, until you hear the voice of Lauren Gray and see his face on one of your Echo shows going, "That's a nice shirt you're wearing, Stuart."
Stuart.
Well, the thing is, Lauren's usually outside my window peeking in anyway.
Well,
I
that's
get
true.
that restraining order.
I just do the drone thing. It's like, yeah, what the heck?
Yeah.
But yeah, you went Echo. See, I'm still on an old school thing with Lowe's. I have Iris, so it's all Z-Wave stuff. And I still have a mix between Google Assistant. I have Kindle. I mean, not Kindle, but the little wand from Amazon that you can scan stuff that never really went that far. But now you like Facebook. Now you put Facebook with a camera that you never can control. Put it in the middle of your room.
I don't think that's going to sell well. I think people.
Their marketing is terrible for that. I think there's
it's horrible.
Yeah, really bad. It's going to flop.
I can't imagine people doing that just being Facebook, where exact same product from Amazon, exact same product from Facebook, they're sticking with Amazon. Yeah. Same messaging, if they went same messaging, same price point, same product, everything, I think Amazon wins.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, right? Because you talked earlier about trust, and really that is the biggest currency right now for brands is trust. How do you gain trust in consumers to get the data and to be able to have permission to use the data? And while we all trust, or a lot of people trust Amazon or trust Apple or trust Google, whichever the brand is, what we trust them with is different, right? Because if I'm doing some kind of consumer purchase, electronic stuff like that, I trust Amazon for that. I trust the data on Amazon, the reviews on Amazon, and even though there's some issues there, I'm going to trust them with my credit card. It's convenient. But if I'm doing something else, like my hardware, so my laptop, my phone, my tablet is all Apple. And Apple has that ecosystem locked down for me, and I trust them with that stuff. If Amazon were to come out with a laptop or a phone like they did, I didn't switch to Amazon. I don't trust them with that piece of my life.
Right.
So it's kind of compartmentalized between the brands for what they're purchasing.
And Apple has now said, we are not a company that does anything with your data. It's say we don't give it to anybody. We don't say we don't market.
They monetize it through advertising. Sure.
They keep it all for themselves, but but they aren't really sharing it with partners, right? It's
no, but they let people lead use of it, right? In the form of targeted ads and things like that. But that third party doesn't get access to the data for sure.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I told you,
gentlemen, I think I'm going to have to run, get set up for this live show thing that's coming on in about an hour.
Do we get to see the brain trust that you work with? I mean, you guys going to pop back on with us?
Yeah, what I'm going to try to do is I got to use the same laptop and go get it hooked up with a bigger camera and the microphone stuff. So we're going to have 5 Fueligans on the show today. And we're going to be doing an Ask Me Anything. So you can follow us on YouTube or Facebook. So just go find Fuel Travel on either one of YouTube.
Robert and I have already put a queue up of things of solve the universe, give 2 examples.
You got it. It literally is Ask Me Anything. You can ask us about Star Wars or beekeeping or hotel marketing, whatever you want.
I want to really, what caused that really horrible, painful rash you had?
Yeah. I told you not to tell anyone about that. So yeah, we're gonna have some fun. We did it on our 50th episode, and it was a lot of fun. We're gonna do it again. We'll probably talk about the Marriott deal a little bit as well. But yeah, we're going to start the stream. Will go live at 1:15 p.m. Eastern, but will come on at 1:30. So you'll have a little break between this show and our show to go take a pee or whatever you need to do.
And Stuart, I think this is your
Robert
opportunity.
He's all set up to sit there day in, day out. He's good. Here's the body.
I really think this is your opportunity with the context of the Marriott breach to go throw down the gauntlet and tell all the hackers of the world the Fuel platforms are impenetrable. Right? There's no chance, no matter what they do.
I'm pretty confident, but I'm not that confident.
Not with out in the world. He has too many secrets she knows how to do.
Yeah. There's things we don't control, right? So if someone hacks the CPU on the servers, then we're screwed, But it's the same risk anyone has. Yeah. But when you see someone like Marriott can get hacked, I mean, the reality is anyone can get hacked. So it's important for you as a hotelier to, one, know what data you are storing, have that mapped out somewhere, and have a diagram that indicates where the data flow is, what's pushing data to your system, what's taking data from your system, who has access to that data. I would recommend anyone, even if you're not focused on GDPR and becoming fully compliant with that, whatever that means, go ahead and model out your data, because I think that will at least give you an idea of the risk that you're facing, and it might shock you when you see who has access to your data, and you might question it and say, well, do they really need it, and should I limit what they have access to?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Marriott kind of wishes they'd done that a while ago. Right now,
no, well,
or they didn't
actually,
do it fast enough.
Yeah, and actually there was another article. It was on digital, what not to do for digital transformation, because people who are trying to change things, they've really got to look at this stuff. But they had a really good thing. They said, what's standing in the way of like fixing, because you could say these are old systems that got hacked, right? And that's one of the causes. They said, number one, what's holding back? It's the legacy IT infrastructure. 64% of these CIOs go, yeah, this infrastructure is going. Data security, 60%. Technology silos, 59%. Budget, 54%. And competing priorities, 53%. That right there, those 5 things, those barriers epitomize the hotel industry. I mean, those are like the pillars, of the IT infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah.
Any challenge the industry faces right now, you could point back to those 5 things as the reason that they face them, for sure.
Yep. And to overcome all of those is a tall order. Yeah. It's not.
We're going to let Stuart run so we can get set up. So that
thanks, everyone. I'll try to pop back in, but if not, then hopefully you guys can post some questions on the live show. So again, Facebook.com. Facebook.com/Fuel Travel, or go to YouTube and search for Fuel Travel. We'll have the live videos show up on both those pages.
Are you going to be monitoring the chats on YouTube, or where if we want?
Yeah, we're going to monitor. We'll be monitoring both Facebook and YouTube. So either one, if you have a question, you can submit them there, and we'll do our best to answer them. Unless your name is Lauren Gray, and then we'll probably.
I was about to say I got to go pick up my alias if I'm going to join the show, because it'd be like pop in and be like, I'm sorry, you're blocked. It's not. It's no.
All right, guys, have a good rest of the show.
Thanks for taking over. Congratulations on the 100th show.
Thanks.
I was just going to go over and say something really profound, but I just totally lost my point with it. I know, right?
I would have liked to have heard that.
I know, right? Something profound for me would have been an interesting mix. I guess when it comes to do you remember? Oh, I know. I was going to ask. Do you remember whether Best Western had any data breaches recently? I forget. Something reminds me that I thought they did, but I wasn't too sure, because they just went through a whole total tech stack redo.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking up. Let's see. Best Western, August. Oh no, that was 2008. They had one.
Yeah, they had a long time ago. They had one, but
Ion Surveillance. Nope, I think 2008. This is full details. No, I think that was. I think 2008 they had one, but not. Oh well, actually, here's one. At least 20 hotels hit by the credit card breach. That may not be Best Western. That may be the. Hang on. That might have been the Sabre one. I'm pretty sure.
Well, the idea of it's. I think companies because I remember.
Oh no, that was HEI. That was HEI Hotels, right? So it was the management group. The privately owned company that had Starwood, Marriott, Hyatt. They had 20 brands. They got
because I know that from people that we know within the organization, both of us know the same people, is that they went through a very painful, very long, painful process of getting the changes. First off, to decide what changes to be done, to make the commitment to do the changes, to implement the change. Then they tied it together to a whole rebranding concept. I mean, they just stacked misery on top of misery with stuff. They went through all this process, but I would have to think that they're kind of sitting back now going, because they may have upgraded themselves tech stack-wise when they did this, obviously, to be like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better, and this is a little bit more justification to my franchisors of like, I know we put you through hell, but we're not bouncing in the news like the Marriott is right now, who didn't. And also, what I'm wondering is that we knew that the Galaxy system at Starwood was out of date. Right. It had been for years. And they built Valhalla, which was a really good system. And they spent a boatload of money on that stuff. Yeah. That Marriott, as soon as they got Starwood, put on a shelf.
Right. Well, because everything's got to get integrated into Marcia. Right, and that's the bottom line, because Valhalla probably legitimately could not handle all the volume of all those Marriott brands on it. Right,
so I imagine
I probably would have a really big problem scaling it and transitioning. That would be really hard. Right,
but I made the prediction saying that they're probably taking Valhalla and painting red paint on it, and figuring out how to bring it back out and resell it out now to everybody once that happens. Maybe this is the introduction time for them to come out and say, okay, you know what? We got to do the big replant. This is the time to do it.
I think they get them all onto, well, I don't know if they're going to wind up now. Hard to say. I think they wind up getting them all onto Marcia. I think that's always been the plan, because the unification of the platforms, I think, was scheduled for next spring when everybody winds up on Marcia. But I don't know. That's because again in August, and they've had a rough time. I mean, in August when they kind of merged the two programs, or at least got them cross-referenced. I mean, there's still problems with that, right? There was stuff in the news earlier that people still aren't getting their points and their gaps, and is kind of kludgy with. I still log in on my Marriott one, and it'll say you're a Starwood preferred guest member, because that was like the first one that I did, right? And then I think I brought the Marriott one to pair onto the Starwood one as opposed to the other way. So it's a little weird and disorienting how they've kind of cross-referenced these two, because they aren't unified on the platform. But that's still coming. But they all get on Marcia. But then again, at some point, and my theory is, having no inside information on this whatsoever, once Intercontinental Hotels is fully up on or Intercontinental Hotels Group is fully up on their new platform, which was designed by Amadeus, transitioning from a TPF platform to modern technology. Those Amadeus guys, if they aren't already knocking on Marriott's door, if they have the proof of, yes, we can handle this at scale, and look at what they can do, Marriott's going to have to take that leap. One of Hilton's big strategic things is going to be hitting family travel and being able to book connecting rooms. Marriott can't do that. That is tens of millions of dollars. I mean, that's just not something Marcia was architected to do. And Marriott, having ripped out all the reservation handlers or all the reservation modules in their property management systems and replaced it with Marcia, there's no other way, right? They've got the one source for all that stuff in the core Marriott system. And that system, I would argue, probably won't get hacked because it's so old, right? It's an old TPF platform. The connectivity is horridly difficult to deal with. Even TPF developers are hard to come by and expensive, and you aren't going to go have somebody, mill around in that, because mostly there aren't even databases in that platform. It's just a bunch of stuff, right? That's internally working. I mean, these records on these confirmations, the 6-character confirmation number is a disk location. It's a physical address. It is not some factor out of a database somewhere. So but you don't get flexibility. They have really good security. Same with Sabre. Super good security in the core system. What got hacked? Synixis. That's the hotel platform out there. It's not in the core because it's too hard to go build that stuff in. It's really fast. It's really reliable. It's a 6-bit operating system, which means you do not get the luxury of lowercase letters sort of thing. But it freaking works. And that's going to be a very, very interesting one to see if this impacts that that decision, because I don't know, who knows? Yeah, that's it. I feel bad for the Marriott guys, and this is not going to be an easy recovery from everyone, from corporate PR to the owners to God knows the tech guys. It's a bad one.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think there's any aspect of the system going unscathed, because then, and this goes to a couple of things with this. Obviously, in the context of it, you can say, in some sense, that Marriott was not GDPR compliant.
Oh yeah,
because
right.
Okay, which then, and if you're familiar with the GDPR compliance issues, you have contributors and controllers and so forth within who handles what databases.
Right.
So that means that companies, and I mean this legitimately, say for instance, a very large company, Western Consortium or something like this, has a relationship with Marriott, they have to consider that if there's data being transferred between them and Marriott for booking group rates and whatever have you for this process, it means that one of their vendors is not GDPR compliant, which means it puts them in jeopardy with their GDPR compliance because they're doing business with a non-compliant entity, which means technically in the world of legalities that these companies have to evaluate whether they can continue a legal relationship of data transfer with Marriott because they're not compliant.
They aren't compliant. Yeah, you've got you've got a cascading effect on there, and not just GDP. I can only imagine the number of class action lawsuits that are going to come, Marriott's way. I mean, talk about someone who's huge with deep pockets. Let's go, let's not mess around with the property. Let's go after them. But PCI compliance? I mean, if you can get to the keys of this, I don't know. Maybe they won't prevail, but there's certainly
there'll be a lot of lawyers.
The greatest career, the job security is going to be in the Marriott legal department and all of their supporting law firms, because they are going to come out of the woodwork with, you're doing everything. How did they get the keys? Sort of thing. I don't know if that's I'm a little rusty on my PCI stuff. But yeah, I don't know if not having secured keys I would think that's a problem. Did the IT director at XYZ write it on a sticky note and put it on the side of the screen monitor? I mean, that's a lot safer than these guys weren't walking around their office. It's hard to get into Marriott's offices and go up there, right? You need badges, and there's security, and there are cameras, and there's all sorts of Bethesda is, there are lots of facilities around the Washington D.C. area which are probably easier to get into than so some of them perhaps part of our government. So but I don't know. It's an ugly situation.
An interesting thing, because part of it is, like I said, going through the GDPR compliance discoveries is that you have to assign whom you are sharing data with and how it is that they're sharing. You identify them, and they have to identify back that they are compliant as a contributor or controller.
You now have this one unidentified external individual, I guess, you put on the list. Now you're compliant, right?
Right.
We're sharing with that guy.
We shared with him. Yeah, that person that took all of our keys and went and trudged around for 4 years. Yeah, taking their time to go and figure out what it is they want to do. Yeah.
Do you have an email address where we can contact them? We'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah. Well, we kind of do, but we'd have to use everybody else's to get to them. So do you want to hit? We didn't outline topics that we're going to do today, and I promised people we would. And I apologize because Marriott. That just dominated this morning's conversation.
Absolutely.
And that started the whole event to it. So we didn't really get to talk about some of the topics. And then we went into the CRM one just because it was such a mind-numbing, obvious. Thank you, Mr. Wizard, for being so silly with your CRM database. Is there one? I mean, we have the Google one, which we can obviously talk about. There's fun ones, which is the moving hotel room, which is another way of just having fun talking about.
I think the moving hotel room one is a very, very interesting. I mean, we can touch on that briefly. I'd like to talk about Bidroom a little bit too, because that was kind of an interesting one. But yeah, we can talk about the moving hotel room. Basically, there was an article in USA Today, and unfortunately, Nancy, who's the writer, contacted me to do some stuff, and I couldn't get back to her in terms of her meeting her deadline. She's on deadline, and I gave her too detailed a thorough answer on all the issues with it. But basically, this someone won a design competition, which basically said, "Hey, we're putting a hotel room on wheels, and this is going to be really cool. You'll be able to, and it's going to be a self-driving car, and you go and you have all the amenities." Well, okay. Some people didn't think this through completely. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, but from a practical perspective, they said, "Oh yes, there'll be a little kitchen in there. There'll be restroom facilities. There'll be mattresses, and it's like, and we can hold up to 5 people." It's like, what size is this?
Right.
That's,
It's a bus.
when you're talking self-driving vehicles, you're getting to a situation of weight is really, really important, right? Because you have battery life and range and all that sort of thing. And they said that this would probably be by 2030. And I'm looking at it going, 12 years out, that is way too long. You guys aren't going to succeed. But I really think, this will be the use cases and business models for these, I think, will be very, very interesting, because you'll be able to get something. I would think that the interior, at least, not thinking way out of the box, would be more like a first class lie flat seat or something like that, right? One of these international first class little things where you have a module where, yes, you can have some dining and eat. You have a table for workspace. You can go up, you can recline, you can sleep, you can do all sorts of interesting stuff. You've got great entertainment options, and it's going to be interesting for the scenarios, because they were I don't know if they were looking at it as you're going to go have this car and this is going to be yours. I think it's going to be more on demand basis, right? You go, yes, I want to go from, where you are, you're going out to California. That's great. Let's get one of these. And then we can wind up customizing the trip. So it isn't just this point to point, like an airplane, you fly over everything. Hey, we can stop the world's biggest ball of yarn. We can go to the, whatever cool place where the, such and such a battle was done, or who knows what you want to see, right? So you'd be able to stop at all those and get out. And then they were saying, well, yeah, and then you could go stop at a hotel, and maybe the hotels would be integrated with, and I'm like, maybe these get branded a hotel, but why would you want to stop at a hotel if you have a bed and you can sleep in that? That's going to slow you down. Why do you want to stop and be in a stationary place for 8 hours where you could sleep and make progress maybe for 8 hours, right? Unless you wanted to be there for a few days where you go, great, I'm getting out of the vehicle because this vehicle needs to be used by somebody else. They're going, you got the whole logistics of whoever owns that vehicle wants it used continuously, and you don't want to pay for the thing sitting there, right? And just having the, the convenience of, I don't have to unpack my stuff. I'll just, get back in.
Well, if you take the idea off of a moving hotel room and instead having, as you said, a very comfortable method of travel, like, automated cars, I thought that when we first started talking about self-driving cars and so forth, I thought, how cool is this? Because when you look at our airline system, it's based on a spoke and wheel mentality. There's hub-centric destinations.
Hub and spoke, yes.
Hub and spoke, yeah.
Yep.
So that you can have this gradient of going to smaller markets from a centralized market, but you have to still go through that centralized market to get out anywhere. This now creates a lattice work of a honeycomb, where you don't have to go through a centralization to get to another destination. Right. You can go from one to another. Now, there's limitations.
And all the points between, which really make a great experience if you have the time, right?
Again, the type of travel experience is going to be different. I'm not going to take a car from Los Angeles to New York simply because it'll drive itself and I can just sit and watch the world go by.
Right.
That is a train, okay? I'll just go on a train if that's what I want to do. And if I have a time constraint, I'm still going to get on a plane because I need to be in New York for something in particular, not a week to get there. So the modality is based also on the type of travel you're going to be doing. But picture kind of two variations of this. One is the self-driving car being truly one of those ones where the driver isn't going to be engaged at all. The car is completely in control of what this is doing. Yep. And you're just sitting there watching TV, playing games, or whatever, looking at the world go by. You don't have a steering wheel.
And I would say, you mentioned trains. You can suddenly create dynamic trains on this, right? Because again, if you have a method, nobody says you have to have the doors on the side of the car, right? You could do the front and the back. You could make it like a little train. You could hook these things together, right? Now, again, I'm not sure how you hook them together and then you have to walk through someone else's place, right, to go get the thing. But you can wind up having a dining car, different things where you go, I would like to be attached to this. Right?
You're looking at it from a variety of choices.
Or your car is getting towed behind it, right? And you just go, and then I'll get into that. But then you go, well, it doesn't even really need to be towed behind. It's storing my luggage, maybe.
But just because there's a sharing economy where, one, you're not going to be owning your own vehicle anyway. You're going to use whatever vehicle you need for what you need it for. But just going onto the train mentality for a second, our infrastructure is based on individual travel, how our networks of highways and everything else runs. Right. It doesn't mean that there isn't alternatives to bypassing some of the metro areas or whatever have you for more direct travel. Where we talk about trains, speed trains from Dallas to Houston becoming a reality and so forth. Same mentalities. These things can join into those to cover greater distance at faster speeds. Right. And then take you off of it to when you want to be in a slower speed, more destination based. Right. There's so many variations to this, but the idea is that hotels have to consider what the displacement of a comfortable travel experience would be compared to their value proposition of the destination they represent. Right. This would be, in my mind, a challenge to the between point A and point C roadside hotel mentality.
Absolutely.
Compared to the destination hotel while I'm in a location mentality.
This is, I predict, would have the same impact of the little hotel that was in the small city on Route 66 or whatever, right? And got a lot of traffic because that's where, and then they moved the interstate out, right? You went, oh my God, nobody comes here anymore. Everything, nobody's here. Same thing. It's like, what is the reason for someone having to stop right there? Now, again, you wind up, I think whoever wins this, it's not necessarily going to be the self-driving technology to go from point A to point B. It's how do you deal with, I don't know if it's the automation to say, I'm transitioning myself, I'm going to stop here and we're going to get the bite to eat at this really great place, right? Great restaurant. But guess what's going to happen at the same time? That car is going to either get new batteries slid into it or something like that, or the car is going to get swapped out, or I don't know what, right? I mean, because you're going to have your stuff, right? Your luggage. There's where's more that of a going?
Threat. Right. There's more of a threat to between destination hotels based on fuel efficiency and modality of distances of cars that are alternative fueled than there is on what we're talking about right now, which is the displacement of hotel demand because you're traveling in accommodations that don't require you to have to stop and stay somewhere for 8 hours because that's the only place that you can rest. You can rest in the vehicle.
And who wants to stop to get gas anyway, right? It's a completely irrelevant sort of thing.
Super highway things where, okay, I'm driving, I want to go through Big Bend, Texas, slowly, see some stuff, stop at different places. Rest in the vehicle while we're looking at the scenery and not have to mess with anything. But then as soon as I get to Houston, I want to get to Dallas. So I join one of these fast speed train things and poof, off we go. And we're in Dallas in 15 and a half hour. And then I get out of Dallas and you know what? The batteries on the vehicle are low. We're going to pull in someplace because we're going to get some barbecue. They swap out the batteries or they swap out the vehicle and keep the track.
And I've got to think, I got to think, Elon Musk has been thinking through this between Tesla and Hyperloop and some of these things where he goes, here's the passenger compartment. Can we bolt it on from this car chassis platform drive thing and then move it over to Hyperloop and then go send it through the tunnel? Although he just canceled his tunnel thing in LA. They did what do you know? They looked at earthquakes and all sorts of other things and went, oh no, we aren't going to do that. Apparently they're going to try it somewhere else.
Yeah, they got to do above. But then, he has this big, what's his one that builds the holes? The big bore.
Oh, the boring company.
The boring
that was the one that stopped. The boring company stopped the thing in LA. Yeah.
Right. But the idea of it is that here he has a boring company. He's talking about Hyperloops, and he has electric modalities for travel.
Yeah.
And he has autonomous control thing, rockets.
And space, and he's, exactly. So, he's thinking big of how do you connect all those.
I mean, if you look at the layers of types of travel, and the reason why I'm bringing this practicality, we're just not doing wishful happy talks. The reason why this applies to hospitality is the modalities that you're looking at, and Elon Musk and what they're doing for creativeness is the same way that you as a hotelier has to look at your types of travel reasons that come through your door. It's not just about the profiling of a person, whether they're a certain gender or a certain age or a certain income. That's value in itself.
Or where they came from. When you're in a drive market like that, do you really care if they're from, Quebec City, Montreal, Toronto, or Edmonton? Yeah. They're coming by to stop on the highway to be in your spot.
So the type of travel and the reason for their engagement with you is a strong qualifier in your modality, in your methods of reaching out to them, because it's not just about the demographic awareness of them, as it is also the purpose of their travel as well.
For that itinerary, right? Getting back to the personas.
That same person can be a very, very different person for different reasons based on the cause of the travel, family, vacation, business, whatever it is, conference, whatever. Those are all different reasons for this.
Lauren, for example, may need room in his self-driving hotel room to stand up and change into his whole gold lame evening gown for the event that,
It's more of a Borat bathing suit, but that's just me.
Exactly.
But the idea of too is, and I'm very interesting when I was saying this, is that we lump people in different categories. We don't even have a standardization of categorization.
Right.
We say corporate travel and then talked about conference travel. Honestly,
really,
there is a distinction between attending a conference and having a corporate reason for travel. Yet we tend to lump, when I talk to people, they tend to lump them together as just a business traveler. And it's like, if you're at a conference, your day is dominated by a singularity of an event. And then you have some free opportunities and so forth. That drastically changes your interest level on what you can engage with and what you need from the hotel in particular, and what you're willing to be spending at that hotel.
Or different types of business travel, right? If you're with a company and you're flying into their headquarters in New York, and yes, your time may be all occupied and it's just like boom, 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 breakfast, dinners, you're done and you're in your little corporate world. Or you starting up a company and you're doing sales calls to go try to figure out this, and you're running around all over the place, and you have, maybe you tried to set stuff up, but it's not nearly as structured. And you've checked out of your hotel room because you got to check out where are you going to work for a while, right? Actually, I was talking to somebody earlier this week who's doing basically office space on demand. Right. So you can look at the WeWorks and things like that, but these guys are breaking it down to, you need an hour, you need a 3 hour. They're building this layer on top of these co-working spaces, which I think, again, the changing of the hotel industry, boy, you start looking at a lot of hotel owners are owning co-working spaces, right? There is like 90% overlap for those developers. It's going to be, I need a room, a sleeping room, a stationary sleeping room on demand, right? I need a stationary work desk on, workplace on demand. I need dining on demand. Do I want to eat in the room? Do I want to eat in a restaurant? Is it social? Is it all those different dimensions? I don't think many people are looking at really where these things turn out. And I think 2025, 7 years away, it's going to be really different where this stuff really exists. And if you've got the standard 300 room monolithic, we got all these hotel rooms stacked up here, those don't make great meeting space or working space or whatever. What's the best utilization of these, and how do you make this, how do you do this? Plus, with people driving around with a ton of, you don't need the parking garages anymore. Right. So it's going to be a really 2050. Things are going to look a lot different than, it's going to be the difference before the interstate highway system and after that. I mean, that was a huge, these big, interchanges, going around cities, and those didn't exist before. I mean, you didn't have that kind of flow of traffic. So, and
I'm going to make a technology prediction that I wish I could take advantage of, but the wayward traveler, the business traveler, and the video conferencing that goes on in the world, the webinars we do, the things we conference. I'm always insistent when I talk to clients when I'm traveling that I turn on my camera. I'm on my laptop. I turn on my camera. I want them to see my face, to know I'm engaged with them. I'm talking with them. That whatever.
I've talked to your clients. They don't enjoy that part of the interaction.
I know. I like dragging them through that. But here's the fall down to this.
Well, once they stop screaming, my eyes.
But and this even happens with our live shows, because gosh knows, to keep consistent over doing this every Friday in our 4th year, we've had some different venues that I've been in, and we all been in, and we have the typical phone earbuds with the microphone hanging off on the string off to the side, and I'm constantly complaining or being, you guys will tell me, it's like, Lauren, can you mute yourself? There's a lot of background, because I'm sitting in XYZ lobby, okay, and first off, never put a window behind you or any light behind you, because then you turn into the witness protection program. We warn all of our guest hosts, don't do that, please. Can't see your face, whatever. The second of it is that you go to this common area space, and all the hotels, newer variations to the hotels, are all about using the common space more effectively, and it's there.
Absolutely.
You have long bench that you and 20 people can sit at the same table. Good, bad. Good if you want to talk to them, bad if you don't want to. Okay? And so you try to find a quiet corner somewhere. Usually Unfortunately, it's in front of the windows or something, so you can't do that. So you try to find some vanilla background. But then you get this audio issue. The larger the room, the larger the noise. And these microphones are meant to be talking on a phone. And as soon as you pause, if you're not talking, it really starts trying to search for noise. Okay? It starts trying to listen to something. And like with your headset that you're wearing right now, that's a pain to travel with. Just flat out, that's a pain to travel. Okay? But we don't have a smaller version of this. Now, we have iPods, okay? Still, they'll pick up background noise if you're not trying.
And ambient noise coming in, too, for distraction, things like that.
This microphone thing means I'm only listening for noise right here. This is where I want the sound to come from. Yeah. There needs to be a travel version for traveling road warriors that into the earbuds, microphones here. Okay. Yeah. Now you see some of the great speakers have those little flesh-colored little things that hook over the ear stuff. I have one of those, but it's only a microphone. So in my laptop, I have to put a splitter in to put in an earbud that I still have to have off to the side. Not very helpful. And plus, most of the earbuds aren't just earbuds; they're earbuds with microphones, so still not helpful. So and then even Apple, when I put in the AirPods, that's my source of audio. I can't jack in a microphone only to my MacBook. So to me, technology-wise, get a Road Warrior set where you have earbuds that go in so you can be totally dedicated to the audio of the presentation, and a microphone that is totally dedicated to just your audio, so I don't have to listen to your lobby or any background space that you're listening to. Yeah, I think somebody's got to build that dang thing.
And there are problems. I mean, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the show. I wound up doing a little market research thing on 4 types of basically Bluetooth AirPods. So you had Apple AirPods, you had the Google Pixel Buds, you had the Bose, I can't remember the sound, whatever ones, and then you had the Samsung Iconics. And I wound up going with the Samsung Iconics because they were great. They went into your ear, so it filtered out all the external noise, right? Which I did not like on the Google Pixel Buds and the Apple one, because again, if I'm working in a cafe or something, those were giving me headaches because I was using these for a week at a time to kind of run through a wide variety of scenarios on them. I didn't like them. They weren't as comfortable. You had all that ambient noise interference. You couldn't really listen to good, and I like listening to high quality music when I'm working, right? That's just kind of what I do. I've always done it since college, right? So, and those didn't work. Well, so I got these, and the Bose ones were really marginally better sound, couldn't connect. The Bluetooth connectivity was awful. The lag when you're watching a video and things like that. The Apple ones didn't play nicely with Android or Windows, right? And keep them in the Apple ecosystem, all that sort of stuff. So I came up with the Samsung ones. Guess what? Used them for, I don't know, 4 weeks, I guess, after the 1 week test period. The right earbud didn't die because the volume is at a very, very low level. It's at a 2% volume level, right? It's like, what the hell's wrong? You start looking online. This has been a problem for months on this new line. Oh my God. I don't know if this is software or hardware. And people were saying it was the left one or the right one. So the right one has more stuff for keeping track of running things, stuff like that. It's like, oh God. So what do I have to do? I have to send them back. So now I'm without them. Right? That sucked. I got a Fitbit Fitbit Charge 3, right? Because I had the original Charge HR. Very nice. Guess what? Lasted 4 days, and I got a frowny face, basically, right? Because when I got it, it had a firmware update. Nothing interrupted it. Things like that. So here are 2 pieces of new, state-of-the-art, best-in-class technology, right? You could argue an Apple Watch, but an Apple Watch does nothing for me with my Windows computer and my Android phone, right? It's a watch mostly. It doesn't play well with those platforms at all. So now my daughter, who has AirPods and the watch and the MacBook and the iPhone, she loves all that stuff because it all works together. But for me, I got these 2 things. Both of them work. They're now sent back. I don't use them at all. Right? And you go, wait, this is new technology. How does that should
my AirPods are fine, but for me to really wear them comfortably for long periods of time, I have to take a aftermarket product and put a silicone hoop on it
Yep.
To fit my ear, because
Yeah.
they'll sit in there fine, but then they fall out, they shift.
Right.
I just don't have the ears for them unless I put the silicone caps on, which means putting them in their little holder and having them convenient and all that isn't the same thing. I have
Your
to
ears
decide.
your ears are probably too big. Like for my daughter, who she isn't, she's what, 5'3" or something like that. Those, they fit her perfectly, right? Because again, it's a one size fits all that they had to come. And probably if you're really little, have really little ears or really big ears, it doesn't go. But these other ones, like I've got a wired headset by One More. It has 3 drivers and a really good, inexpensive wired headset. It's great. It comes with a dozen different silicone tips and foam tips for whatever you like. That's same thing with the Samsung ones. They had the hoops, they fit into your ear, and they're really good because they're flat. I don't like the look of the Apple AirPods. It's a little kind of like, really, and some of these things, the Bose ones made you look like you're from Star Trek or something with the things.
Yeah, but the thing with also when you start getting over the ear ones is they allow we still rely on the little microphone being at the base of it.
Oh yeah, well these
pick up all this other stuff. For really to be effective, it needs to be
and
here.
all of them. Yeah, in these cafes, I was testing them with my daughter. Can you hear me? Is this one better than the last one? The Samsung was better. Oh, and plus, because it went in your ear and it isolated it, they had a thing on their app, which was great. You could turn on the ambient noise, which turned on the microphone. And it was a little bit, it sounded a little bit like you're in the fish tank sort of thing, but that's okay. You go, hey, I can just do that. Listen to you. I don't have to take them out and all that sort of stuff. And you could leave them in your ears for, the battery life was like 5 hours or something like that. It was great. And the charge case had 2 additional charges in it, right? So you're like, wow, I can use these for an extended period. I can use them for a whole day of work. This is really fantastic with a minimal break. So great. But if they don't work,
I had I forget what they're called, the Braze or whatever. They were very expensive first. They were the true wireless ones. They were kind of ahead of the AirPods before they came out, and you actually had to turn them on to let the noise go through because it really did block everything else out. They were great, but the microphone again being there and it picked everything up, know. And that makes it very challenging when you're having these meetings and calls and webinars and so forth in your public space. And I'm sorry, but a lot of times you don't want to be sitting in your hotel room with a hotel room image behind you or whatever. And then, of course, if you're not traveling alone, then, don't walk back here because, you're going to be on the screen.
Well, and Samsung had some things on their app, which was pretty cool. It did like voice filtering. So it tried to figure out kind of mid-range tones and filter, and again, it's software controlled, right? So it was better. Oh, and then the other thing that was really cool was it held a bunch of music, right? You had like 4 gig of storage in the headsets themselves. Right. So if your phone dies or you don't have connection to stream or whatever, you can play this music straight off of your earbuds, which was great, right? And you didn't even have to do, which is why I wound up with this watch, because the downside of this watch is it doesn't have any storage for music, right? So anyway, it's interesting though, the complexity of all this stuff. And again, I look at Apple, who's, well, I guess, again, they're the most valuable company in the world, although Microsoft was ahead of them earlier this week for just part of a day, which I think people kind of forgot about Microsoft. You're like, yeah, they have the second highest market cap of any other company in the world. Don't count them out.
Right.
But again, it's if you're in Apple and people trust them and the hardware works, that's a pretty powerful thing. And Amazon can't meet that. Google can't really meet that. It's it's going to be interesting. So, and the reason I went through that was, so if you now want to integrate people's lives, do you wind up using all Apple stuff in the Apple ecosystem in your hotel, and you're an Apple hotel that's totally, because I don't think Apple is going to give you access to all the person's stuff. You're going to be, as Stuart said, they will lease you that information, but you won't get it. That's going to be super interesting for hoteliers to see how they cope with that, right?
And again, it goes back to the security issues of our day, kind of thing. But
and how it ties into the car and where you are and all the all that sort of stuff. I don't know. Will Apple have self-driving cars, or do a deal with GM, or all these guys are investing. GM has money in Lyft. I mean,
Microsoft
Ford has
is
stuff.
really Microsoft's the one that really tried to get into the cars. They've been the one that's been focusing on them the hardest and the longest is to get Microsoft stuff.
Well, Google too with Waymo. Yeah, they've got a huge stuff.
Speaking of Google, do you want to hit the fact that Duetto article? Patrick talking about the fact that Google is your most important hotel distribution channel.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I thought
we don't have to. I was just one of the ones you had put in there. It's part of the articles.
I'm featured in it. Although they did take one comment a little bit out of context, where I basically was doing the devil's advocate, saying, well, yeah, but you can do things outside. Just doing, there may be opportunities with an OTA if you can't get your CPMs down or your CPCs or CPAs, whatever method you're doing, you're working through on Google, it may be in some cases more cost effective to get it through an OTA. And that's kind of a real, not, and again, I kind of go back to the part that was left out was kind of the right guest for the right channel yes, a lot of stuff should be direct, and that's great, and shouldn't go through Google. Right? Maybe you should just come direct, but to discover a lot of people, Google is a daunting, very, very important platform, but also OTAs do some stuff and have users that you might not be able to access through Google, quite frankly, because they go to Expedia because they love it and they just book their flight there, right? And, and you have this high intent traveler who wants to do it through there. Yeah, you may not be able to intercept them through that path, which is maybe for that itinerary, for a leisure trip, maybe all their corporate stuff gets booked through, American Express Travel and their company, and that's tackling that. And maybe when they do a wedding anniversary, they do it themselves, and it's going through Google, and that's great. But for this other stuff, maybe it's through Expedia, right? You don't know.
All right, so silly question, and this is a marketing idea that I have, and if anybody's listening to it still, they'll have an insight into the mind of Mancina, I guess. So, independent hotels and destination locations, hard to fight. Like you said, you can go to the OTAs and just throw your hat in the ring and say, "Hey, look, I need high-end exposure to destination opportunity. People coming to my market, they're already interested. They're coming to look for being in my market. This is my way of being in there." Okay,
right. Yeah.
Now, wonder if that same hotel had a campaign that they pushed out that said, show us your United flight ticket and we'll give you $20 off your room rate when you arrive.
Yeah.
Or American Airlines. And what you do is then you focus your ad campaigns centric to the hubs that they're at or the markets that feed those hubs coming from you to there. So you're saying, hey, look, I know that Cincinnati is a heavy United Air market. Okay, that's what they take to get out of the city. That's their big lift out of the city. So let me go over and try to target that market by saying, look, you show us your United, okay? Because that's one thing that the OTAs have yet to do is true, and I know I'm going to put you on a soapbox when you say this, dynamic pricing, where you can create collaborative relationships of saying, if you buy this, you get this, and it lowers this price because you did that. Yeah. That doesn't exist. And I know you very early on had been an advocate.
And that business model is now owned, that patent is now controlled by Expedia, right, for dynamic packaging. Yeah.
So,
but here's, I'll predict what's going to happen. The airlines have been working on new distribution capability, NDC, for a long time because there was the Open Travel Alliance spec. Farelogix went out and wound up, developing a separate spec based on open travel, but then they made it open access. It was proprietary, basically acquired by the airlines, and now that new distribution, standard or NDC is what they're using for all their ancillary sales, right? So you can get advanced seat assignments, right? You can go get priority boarding, you can get an upgraded seat, all that stuff, baggage, all those things is all enabled by NDC, but it's a merchandising platform. So now you can do what else would you like? And I mentioned before the would you like fries with that? Yes, it's going to be rental car because rental car companies pay airlines almost half, right? A fee because it's such a high intent traveler. It's so high convert. That's where you're going to get them. Right? That's from the old call center days. Like, oh, do you need a rental car? Yes. Well, here, we'll pitch you over to Avis, right? Well, now they can just book it right there and, have a huge revenue share. Those airlines are going to be ultra aggressive, owning those passengers, going, you want my United 1K member in Cincinnati? You're going to pay, right? You're going to give me a better rate. You're going to give me a freaking big revenue share. And then, yeah, I'll consider sending it your way. Right. So, yeah, and they will start bundling that stuff themselves because, again, Expedia is very effective at it. They go, I've even seen some messaging that'll go, and a lot of it's basically behaviorally based, but it's like, yeah, book a hotel and car together, or a hotel and air together, and the air is free. And you kind of go, what? Yeah, because maybe it's one person traveling for 5 nights or whatever, and they look at it and they go, yeah, the discount in the hotel, we're getting this off, and we're in a package rate that's 25% off. It's boom, right? Those numbers work. Now, if you've got a family of 5 that's traveling for 3 days, that's not going to happen, right?
Right.
But still, all crammed into one room. Yeah, that's not the same scenario. But yeah, you start getting into this whole bundling area. It's going to be, and I'll go very quickly. There are 5 types of bundling, right? And for hotels in particular, they aren't really good at any of them, right? Number 1 is if you're the supplier and you bundling, hey, it includes breakfast. It includes, golf, whatever sort of thing. What happens now in the sort order? If you're on Hilton.com, you can't really tell, I picked on Hilton. Should we pick on Marriott? Doesn't really matter. Hyatt.
Doesn't really matter.
Right? You can't tell who's at the top. Like, oh, well, the Hyatt Centric includes breakfast. The Regency doesn't, right? Or it doesn't break that stuff out very effectively of what's the value proposition of how you get these features versus the price. So that's phase 1 is just basically a value add in your own price. So the second one is bundling it, where you just go, oh, I want this and that. It's just a bolt on, right? Sort of thing, which is fine. Yeah, groups do it, and that's what the packaging is now with Expedia and stuff like that. Now they may alter the price on their side just to try to get a comp, basically to drive a conversion, because they might get 25% off on the hotel, but they're only give a 5% discount because they don't have to give they can keep the other 20% as gratuity, right, to do that. The third one is true dynamic packaging, which nobody does, which are rules established by each of the partners for their own benefit to go together, and then whoever has the most efficient combination of platform and the lowest margin requirements wins, right? Nobody's doing that anymore. 4 is what Expedia is messing around with now, though, which is a sequential purchase, right? It's like you bought the hotel. Would you like something else with that? Or you bought the air. We'll now give you the hotel at a different price, right? You go pay for it. And then the 5th one is distributed packaging, which I can't really tell you about. You'll have to pay me big consulting fees to do. And that's where you really do some very, very, very cool stuff.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it first. We get a deep pockets. Mr. Robert Coble.
Distributed packaging. But the problem is if you don't solve the first one, right, which is, hey, I'm selling this with a value add, and communicating it, not just if somebody's only on your website because they came through your channel and you successfully got them into your funnel. Yes, that's fine. You need to be able to do that. But how are you selling that against everybody else? And then you get resort fees, all this other stuff, which has been designed to make this a convoluted process. That's not what consumers want. They want simple transparency. When I look in New York, I go for a particular neighborhood generally. I want it sorted in ascending price order. I want it filtered by 4-star and higher hotels with, if I'm on Booking.com, an 8 or higher guest review rating. That's good for me, right? I look at that and go, okay, there's some options. I got them in a sorting, price order. That's good. But I also want the total price, including the resort fees and things like that, which brings me to the last. This isn't really the rut row, but the other one I wanted to talk about was Bidroom. So since we're talking about intermediaries, Bidroom is a group. It raised $17 million for its hotel booking platform, and it's interesting. One of the pages basically says, and it's a membership deal. Now, I'm not sure how strict they're going on. I think it's like $300 a year or something as a membership, which I don't think is going to be a big success for them. But what they've also done is a fence, which I believe they may be pivoting to. I'm not sure, which is, oh no, you log in with Facebook, you log in with LinkedIn, you're now a closed group, right? So what they're doing is basically taking the rate and sawing off 8%. Right now, they're working with certain hotels saying it's non-commissionable sort of thing, but the hotel has to give you a lower rate, right? And then they get it, they save it, and it's kind of a, how does this work out? I don't know. We'll have to see. But they have a little thing on their site which goes, if you're booking on Booking.com, here's what you do: give it to us, and we'll book it, almost as a travel agent, right? They'll do a manual rebook, rechannel it to the hotel, and there you go, and save money. So I don't know. They just got $17 million. So somebody liked that idea. I don't know if it's. Well, but I looked in New York. I just gave kind of the description of, it doesn't work there. They've got a subset of hotels where they don't have necessarily the hotels that I want. And they go, wow, yeah, I'm saving 8% on that hotel, but why is it $700 total? I can find a better hotel somewhere else on Booking, like on Booking.com, a better hotel for less money, right? So why would I use your platform? Right. So again, trust. How do you make them sticky? Things like that. I don't think they have those factors going for them. So,
shall we do the Rut-Row?
Unless you want to consider the Marriott the Rut-Row. Yeah, the one that I had was artificial intelligence will eat revenue management, which is, I think, kind of true, but the bottom line is what signals, who's training the AI, what's the quality of the data, and who's really kind of in charge of it, right? Because I don't think you're going to wind up with, the AI figuring it out autonomously on its own, right? It's going to need a lot of parental supervision, which is now what I'm kind of calling, or adult supervision to wind up.
Maybe from the fallout potential of what's happening with Marriott, maybe the progressive change in how we handle our data with GDPR growth, and reinstitutions with new rules from other countries and so forth. I mean, California's trying to build a GDPR type compliance requirement.
Oh no, the U.S. will have GDPR equivalent stuff. It has to.
Right.
Consumer data has to be protected.
I think that's going to have an influence on answering whether AI will eat revenue management's lunch. Because here's, not to a full degree, because I think AI still can be competent doing base revenue management, but the idea of personalized pricing versus standardized pricing, public pricing, can only be done by AI. But if AI doesn't have the resources of data to truly tailor the revenue, the rate offerings to individuals based on their value proposition, based on the data we know about them, if that becomes limited because of new rules, regulations, or change in sentiment from the people, from the general population, then AI will be able to replace revenue management from a scalable public pricing point of view based on timeliness, historical relevance, trending, all the math that's associated algorithmically with current revenue management pricing models. Yeah. If it really truly allows to have the data that it needs to create individualized, personalized pricing, it will totally crush revenue management, because at that point, me walking into a hotel,
keep track of it.
There's just no way compared to you So because of that, I agree that AI, if allowed to have the data necessary to do it, personalized pricing will totally destroy what we think of revenue management now, as well as marketing.
The personalized pricing, though, I am not bullish. My approach to personalized pricing is the same as Ed's to blockchain, right? There's a lot of problems with this, because you need we talked about the multiple persona thing, right? I think a lot of the things it has to be very logical for a consumer. It has to make sense, because again, they've got to trust you, right? And to trust you, you have to be behaving on their terms, not your terms, right? It has to be a true relationship. So if you're doing that, a lot of the temptation for this personalized pricing would be, let's take it to these guys, right? And optimize every little, how much more can we get, right? Is certainly the push for yield management and the genesis of all revenue management. Now, ultimately you get to customer lifetime value. That should be the big one. But again, customer lifetime value is a tough one, because you can have a competitor, you can do all the right things right now, and a competitor comes in and disrupts you 3 years from now and cuts out 15 years of customer lifetime value in your equation. That's not good. Sort of thing, right? So I think this is going to get very, very complicated on the training, the setting the rules, the push of how you optimize the revenue for the owner versus being customer focused and maximizing the customer lifetime value. I mean, those two are unfortunately most of the time in conflict. They should be together, right? We've got a full picture of all of this data, but I don't see that for a while. And AI may be able to figure that out. But the other side is going to be, who are you disenfranchising, right? And all of a sudden, somebody starts running through some analytics. And if you have AI doing this, they should be able to recreate all those signals and data points, which is going to wind up having, wait a second, why did you price Lauren less expensively than me? Because he's more physically attractive and he has a larger,
That's what I'm banking on.
It's the groupies. It's all the groupies. I mean, oh my God. What
I think these are influenced. That's why I'm building my AI model. Shit.
Yeah. But again, if you start figuring out that this race or religion or socioeconomic or something, not intentionally. But I don't even think accidentally happened.
I think well, not saying that it couldn't, but here's my thing.
I think it will. If they aren't looking at it and they aren't testing for that, which is not, most of these things when they get built, they don't get built for what could be wrong. It's like, we're trying to optimize this and these are our best. And Facebook did that. Everybody can share information, not somebody weaponizing it, right?
I think it was a new type of amendment, and just to remind Messina again. Okay, so imagine the combination of gamification,
yes,
and reward-based value. So if we were to say, okay, I'm scoring points, gamification, because of my frequency of travel, and you haven't traveled at all, okay? From a gamification point of view, I should successfully be offered more incentive opportunities than you because I represent a potential. But in fact, no, because you, for the choice when you once out of the blue moon decide to travel,
share of wallet, yeah,
right. You have a huge share of wallet. So the ability to define the value of my relationship versus your relationship could also be based on, at that point, the understanding of the travel, the value of the immediacy of the decision. You may take forever to decide because it's so far out, you're not even caring right now to make the decision. For me, I got to be somewhere tomorrow and I need a choice. I could actually get a higher price because they know, based on these things, hey, you know what, you want to leave tomorrow? Guess what? Cha-ching! You want to get out? We're going to give it to you.
And the trust and brand love and affection, Apple charges a premium because people love Apple. Right. They aren't going, let's go lower this. They're using that as a, let's keep our margins strong because we can use all that extra margin to roll back into R&D to delight people with with the core product, right?
With the speed of AI and the ability to compute these things, they know demand potentials for that market, for those dates, for those rates, for that opportunity compared to other variables. And they might say, you know what? It's better to dump a rate and let Lauren show up tomorrow. Because tomorrow, predictably, we weren't going to be able to do what we wanted to do with these X number of rooms because the demand cycle window, blah, 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 blah. Let's give them this rate to get them here. For you, you would never even see that. Because why? One, you're not going to make the decision like that. Two, it's not an immediacy to that. And you might, in fact, get a higher rate because you're farther out for different reasons on a demand cycle that they know they can get.
Or if they know that you love them and you may come in and say, hey, guess what, Lauren? We love you. We're going to give you a maximum rate. You come stay with us. When we're in a peak demand period, you'll never pay over this ceiling. Right. Because we do it because we love you and we're willing to do it based on your customer lifetime value and your path. That's fantastic. People will go for that. Now that flies in the face of well, wait, no, let's not keep Lauren, who's capped at $250. We can sell that room for $350, right? So there are going to be some very interesting decisions.
Do that math on frequency, just like we do with our wholesaler contract choices right now.
Yeah.
What rates do we offer based on the volume of business you represent? It's a total volume of revenue versus a smaller. And they might still give me the room at $250 because you know what? It's worth the $10,000 I spent with them over the course of other times where they couldn't shoot.
Maybe, but you need a lot of information. You need all of your information. It'd be great to know your total travel profile, to know your share, and go, well, because some of the jump shot data that I think I talked about on the show, because everybody commits these to memory, I'm sure. And you know, I think that was about a year ago. But the jump shot data basically said, the higher the frequency of an individual in your frequent guest program, the higher probability that they are staying with one of your competitors, right?
Mm-hmm. Profile value.
Yeah, because that's a frequent traveler. Yes, and you've got some frequency with it, but that doesn't mean he is, just because he's staying twice a month at a Marriott and you think that's pretty good, you got 24 stay, doesn't mean he's staying 3 times at Hilton's a month or something like that.
Well, that's why,
right? So you don't know.
Vegas, the whales and so forth, and you know, they have the propensity that they may spend more money, but they may be more infrequent. These are all math things that AI, the ability to
it can, but who's the AI working for? Is it working for the owner, who's a real estate company, who goes, I want to maximize the revenue per square foot out of this building, and that's what we do. Now, because we're part of Marriott, and this is the whole business model thing, right? The owner has one business model. The management company has a different business model, and Marriott has a third business model, right? You go, no, this is a regular... He only stays with you once. You need to give him this. You need to take one for the team for the greater good, right?
Right. But here's the other
maybe, but who's AI? Right.
Okay. But here's the point that I'm going to throw in the wrench of the whole process of this. My belief is, remember what Google's new mission statement is? Be the ultimate personal assistant. Yeah. Okay. Your AI is going to evaluate their AI and tell you, Lauren, you know what? Based on what we're looking at, Marriott's probably going to be willing to give you a low rate, eat it for the team, for the management and ownership and brand, to get you there compared to Hilton.
Google will look at all of the behaviors of Marriott over time and in advance, and how they've treated people who are like you.
Hey, look, and that's the answer that's going to end up giving. Lauren, I have you booked in New York at the Marriott Marquis for such and such, and I trust my AI to have looked at all the other variations of what my relationship values were, and it's going to tell me that that's what's the best thing to do.
But before that happens, you still need a hotel system. How many hotel systems are you aware of that look at it and go, hey, Lauren, I look at you and go, you're a Marriott Rewards member. Oh, you have a AAA card. Oh, well, look closer at you. Yeah, you're a member of AARP. Whatever, right? You're part of various, you're a Costco member, right? You're whatever, that's going to be the best deal. A little unknown website, which worked out great for me this week, AutoSlash. If you're renting a car, it's not as slick as the others, right? At all. You go to autoslash.com, you go and you put your pickup and your drop off. And yes, you have to say DFW versus Dallas Love Field if you're, it's airport specific or whatever. Or you can say near an address, it's fine. You do that. And, that's fine. It works like a general, but then they have a page that goes, do you have an American Express card? Do you have a Visa card? Are you a member of Costco? Are you a member of the following airline rewards program? Delta, United, American, whatever. All those various things, because all those are signals for you're eligible for a better rate because you've got that stuff, right? And then it goes out. Well, I had to rent a car yesterday. We had transmission problem. My younger daughter has our other car. We were down to one car. And it's having a transmission problem yesterday, right? We're in this kind of window of, oops, I got to go rent a car, right? Because the car's going to get fixed. Wife's got to go to work. How are we going to go do this? So I went to all these websites. Hey, it's $77 a day at DFW Airport. Hey, it's only $54 at Love Field. Well, I wound up finding through AutoSlash a lower rate. But the one that really got me was pick up the car at Love Field, drop it at DFW Airport, including all taxes and fees, $27.
Huh.
And I found it. Actually, well, it wasn't purely on AutoSlash, but I did 3 because they'll do a thing that says, do you want to check another? Do you want to check another? Right? So I was on the website and for a car rental said, yeah, I want to do it for DFW on that date. I want to do it again. I want to do it at Love Field, and I want to do a Love Field to DFW. Right? Boom. 15, because I think they needed more cars at DFW, and it's probably less expensive to go do that drop off. And they saw whatever price off of it. It was like, right. Wow, I saved because I was eligible for it, right? I didn't know how many hotel platforms figure out that eligibility. None, right? I'm pretty sure. But Google went out and bought Room 77, right? And everybody's like, why? It was basically a tech asset or an acqui-hire type thing. I was like, no, they basically went out and looked for government rates and AAA rates and all those things and layered that into the general search, right? They had a multi-dimensional search, different types of rate plans, pulled that stuff back together. Google's going to go figure that out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And their AI will start doing it. But I think that's where the hotels have to go before they get this personalized pricing is, what's the stuff you're eligible for anyway? Before you start screwing around with your retail pricing structure, it's like, no, at least in my opinion, I advise my customers, your retail pricing structure should be related to the value of your product and brand, right? What is that experience you're providing? That needs to make sense and compete effectively. You don't know who these people are. That's it. That's their one shot. What's the price, right? Yeah, that needs to be set properly, right? And there's a bunch of revenue management of how you deal with the competition and react or not react to that. That's fine. But once you get into the personalized stuff, you need a bunch of information on them, which we talked about earlier was trust-based, and all that whole profile of what are they eligible for, and figure out their customer lifetime value versus other opportunities and opportunity costs. And all of that training, that AI comes back to who owns the AI and whose business model is that AI supporting.
Sure.
Because
I got an idea.
That AI will not get used if it's for the owner and the AI is designed to go, we're giving the best customer lifetime value for that guy. That owner may go, that works for the brand. That's not for across all the hotels, not this. That's where these business models are gonna collide. Anyway, we've been going on because the two of us will go for 3 hours.
We'll go 3 hours, but let's go troll Field Travel's 100th podcast live. Let's go troll them.
Oh, yes, we should. Wait, has it started?
It should have already started. So, real quickly, if people want to know about Rock Cheetah, where do they find you, Mr. Robert Cole?
They go to rockcheetah.com, which is under development. There will be a new website at some point in the future. I don't know when. We'll see. Or at Robert K. Cole. It's coming along, yes.
Coming along. For this show and archive of all 172 previous shows, you can go to hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live. For this episode, look for show number 173 for November 30th, which by any chance next week will be show number 174. Friday, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central. Mr. Robert, thank you so very much for the time today. As always, we were, of course, way over on our normal expectation.
And see, for your personalized messaging on the hours, you have left out the Mountain, Pacific, and all of the international time zones, Lauren.
I just threw them all away.
You have now alienated everybody outside of the...
All 28 countries. I only talked about... That only covers 2 of the countries, 3 of the countries that... all 26 others, they'll have to figure it out. But anyway, let's go troll the 100th episode live podcast of Field Travel, which is an excellent podcast. Until next Friday, show number 174. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we will talk to you then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.